Good morning, and today's going to be Jack 10 of spades. We are in mid position here. Um, actually, probably closer to early position. We open raise, and actually, I take the back. I didn't catch that. Um, so we acted. These two players are not in the hand, so we are in like the hijack. Everyone folds back, big blind calls. So going off the hijack position, this is going to be our range. Villain's range, I'm putting together something like this. It is only 20%. He's playing 16, 11. A little bit higher than the regular VPIP, but his VPIP in big blinds 26%. His preflop calls 25%. I've got some issues because I don't really have. We're not up to that amount. So what are we basing this range on? Well, we could look at his called two bets from blinds range. It looks like he's playing all the suited aces. Looks like he's playing all the pocket pairs. He has offsuits like Queen 9, Jack 10. So I've got at least like Broadway hands. But then when we look at the 3-bet range, he has 10s and jacks. He has ace king suited, ace 9 suited, ace 7 suited. What I did was assume he's going to go queens plus ace queen. And then I set 50% for jacks and tens and ace jack as well. I did not include like the queen 9, but I did do those with like queen 9, king 9 suited hands. So this is 20%. Might be a little tight, but I think it's kind of close to what a caller might do. So we see a flop of jack 6-4. So we flop top pair. Overall, when we think about ranges, top pair is probably going to be hit. That's the most likely hand. Maybe you can have some over pairs, but with villain not having, or with 3-betting queens plus, you can imagine he probably doesn't have queens, kings, or aces. I think there's a low chance that he has pocket jacks because he'd have to have the one combo of those. May have tens, could have nines, 8, 7s. Of course, he could have hit trips as well. So villain checks. I assume he's going to check everything. Now it's on us. What do we do? Looking at equity graphs, we're running pretty close, so I don't think we're necessarily going to be c-betting a whole lot. At least I don't think so. So let's work out what we can do. And also when you consider like the draws, we don't really have a whole lot of draws available to us, so that's going to limit what we're going to c-bet. So we might actually have a tighter c-betting range than what we would expect. All right, so if we do open-ender and gut shots, that's only 2.5%. We would have to add, if we add overcards like ace king, ace queen, king queen, that gets us to 18%. We're at 23% when we do top pair plus, so we're looking at maybe increasing our bluffs to get to more of those. So I think what we can do is possibly add our 2-card backdoor. So like I know those are all gut shots, but doing something like this where we have where we're in the middle, where you can catch a 10 or a 9 or an 8 or a 7, and that can improve our range. I think that could help. That could be a decent bluff. Same thing maybe with these, like king 7, king 8, and the aces. Where an ace or a king comes, we could reasonably, have top pair. But if a middle card comes, you're looking at 10, 9, 8 could all improve us. I think the 10 is going to be the weak one. Well, the 8s would be the weak one. I think those would be the weakest one. So maybe ace 9, ace 7. I actually take that back. Maybe we leave all of those in, and then I think what we'll do is add like these bottom pairs. Yeah, and that might be about it. That's at 35%, so we're at 58% c-bet. Top pair, maybe we leave like ace jack, and maybe king jack as checks. our overpairs. Maybe we leave ace as a check, but we bet kings and queens. And when we do that, now we have probably too many bluffs. So let's take those out. Still 43%. Just seems light. Seems light, and especially yeah, I think it seems light for GTO play. But, and I think we're gonna probably knock some of these down too. Need that. That might be a little bit better. 39, 40%. And the reason I noticed this, fold the c-bet stat. Look at that. They're actually 1 out of 6, 1 out of 4. He's either playing real tight or he calls a lot. He calls a flop, and then on the turn he gives up. So we've got two options for this play. We start c-betting everything and then barrel most of those hands to take advantage of the fact that he's going to be folding a lot, or we tighten up our c-bet range, let him get to the turn, and then if we bet the turn, then hopefully by playing soft, he's going to call more loosely. I actually like the idea of betting more and having to fire a second barrel. So with that, I think we're going to go back and say we're betting all of our top pair and over pair. I think we're going to try to get some value for those 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. I think middle pair becomes kind of a semi bluff. Overcards, we're going to bet all of them at 65%, and we're going to put these back in here, and I think we're going to expand it to like queen 9, queen 8 as well. Let's add those ace 10, king 10, queen 10. Get us up to 76%, and we should be able to continue on a lot of them. So that's what I'm going to be the c-bet. This is probably a smaller bet size, 33%. So that's what I did. He calls, so he doesn't fold. So that means I'm going to give him like any pair. We're going to give him all of the draws. We're going to give him the overcards too. Do I do a 2-card backdoor flush draw? I just can't justify that. I guess with the 2-card backdoor flush draws, we'll give him all of the aces. And we'll give him all of those. That gets us closer, so 25% fold to c-bet. That could work. And I think he would fold a lot of those hands. Alright, king of clubs comes out. I assume he's going to check. Again, he's going to check everything now. I bet, what kind of hands do I think he calls with? I think he calls with top pair plus. I think a middle pair maybe. And then, of course, he's calling flush draw open-enders. So I think he's calling 52%, which means he's folding 48%. And this is why we would really start betting more. More than what I think GTO would predict. So we're still going with our flush draw open-ender. We're going to include our gut shots at this point. That gets us to 54%. I think we're going to add our weak pair and pocket pair below the second card. I think we're going to go for those. I think we're going to convert these into bluffs, 7s to 10s. That's at 80%. So we've kept it high, even though when we c-bet 75%, usually GTO says we're going to start backing off. Exploitatively, we see that he tends to call a lot on the flop and then fold even more on the turn. I think this could be a valid attempt at a bluff to try to capitalize on the fold. So I do think he's going to probably fold any 6, or if he has 7s or 8s himself, I think he's going to fold to those. Even like fold up to 10s. He may even fold the jack. So I think that's going to be our c-bet range. I think at this point we're probably going to bet half pot. I didn't bet, and I think this is probably a mistake here. Now I understand that my guess is probably that I assumed he's calling overcards, but we have to remember he would have three bet. I think he would have three bet those, which really limits how many kings he has. So I don't really think this king is going to improve him to a top pair a whole lot, much of the time. So I think I kind of messed up here. I think I kind of messed up here. I kept middle pair as a check. Oops, turn that. And we're going to X those out. All right, so with middle pair, maybe I'm right by checking, but and I guess here we don't really want to fold. Maybe we could get some value for river, but I think with a check, we're probably going to call call a river bet at this point. But still, talking about exploitatively, we're going to really be betting a whole lot more than what I bet GTO says. Ace of Hearts comes in. I think that's just an absolute horrid card for us. I think we could have, if had we bet, I think we're going to fold out all of the Ace X that didn't improve. He would have folded those out on the turn, but now that since we went check check, I think he's connected with top pair. So now I'm going to revise the strategy. I said I was going to check call on the river. Now if he bets, I think I'm just going to be folding because it's going to be more likely that he has an ace. What does he do? He checks. Kind of predict he would have bet all of those hands for value. So it's really middle pair, weak pair, nothing hands. And the question is, if I bet, is he going to call with any of these? Yeah, I kind of think king might call, but I don't think any of these weak pair, nothing hands are going to call. So I don't think it will be justified in betting. So I do think we would be betting a straight. I think we would be betting a set for value and two pair for value, and then top pair for value. Middle pairs kind of maybe sometimes we bet, sometimes we don't. So maybe bet king queen for value, but then check like king 10, king 9, king 8, king 7. I think we're probably checking queens. I think we bluff at the nothing hand, like when we miss everything, and then we're gonna have to probably, let's get those 36. So we're gonna need like 18% for bluff. So I think here you can probably go like 2s and 3s, just kind of as a bluff to balance out that range. But yeah, I think at this point we're gonna be checking behind and taking the showdown, which is what I did. Villain shows Jack 7, which was a top pair hand on the flop. But then, yeah, I don't think he's calling. I think the turn is questionable whether he calls. I think he could call. He could call the turn, but he probably isn't calling the river. So let's go ahead and take a note here on what he played. So he calls hijack, 3 big blind, RFI in big blind with Jack 7 diamonds. So Jack 7 diamonds I did not have in his range. I cut it off at Jack 8. So he is out of position. He check called 33%. Check on Jack of Hearts, 6 of clubs, 4 diamonds, King of clubs, Ace of Hearts. All right. So let's revise this range. So if he called with Jack 7, he's probably also calling with all of those, and yeah, probably these. Maybe 5-4. Okay, 28%. We'll do that. So what we're gonna do is let's see what GTO says. All right, here's GTO. Set them up, check 100%. Now it's on us. It looks like we are betting against that wide range, the newer wide range. We're betting over 60% of the time, about 63%. I'll note that I did check out the tighter range that we had, tighter range for villain, and we were only betting about 38%, well 40% or so, and it favored the larger bet sizes. Here it looks like we are also favoring the larger bet sizes. I think for the most part, you can just see most of it is the dark blue. That's the larger pot sizes. Aces seems to be more evenly split between the different bet sizes, but for the most part, it's arguing larger bet size. Jack 10 here, we've got Jack 10 of spades. You can see that we don't have a backdoor flush, so maybe this could be, we could toss in some checks here. And it's roughly split between 66 and 33%. So what we'll do is we'll do 33% and villain calls. This is a GTO call. King of clubs comes out. Villain checks 100%. Now we're betting. So if we were betting 62% or so, now we're still betting about 60%. Here, your Jack 10, we'd continue with the flush draw, which is kind of what I would expect. I think we're continuing with open ender, betting. But we're not betting all of our flush draws, because when you look at like hands that we're going to be betting, we're betting top pair plus. We're sometimes betting the queens, but then our jacks become more checks, with the exception of ace jack. So jack with the top kicker, especially. We block a lot of ace x hands, but I mean we already know we're not including ace king or ace queen in there, so I wonder why it's ace. It must be just a percentage. We're going up sometimes with that ace king, and then everything else is a check. So it does look like we're okay with the check here. And then the ace of hearts comes out. Villain's betting. I did expect straights, top pair. I expect him to bet two pair, but GTO says not to do that. Probably because that ace is going to connect with our ace jack as well, along with like ace 6 and ace 4, because I think we're betting those. Yep, ace 6 and ace 4. So he calls. He checks. What do we do? We're betting about 50% of the time, but you can see Jack 10 is equal. So even when against a GTO player, our line looks okay. Looks just fine, and I think for the most part our analysis is also doing just fine on like what kind of hands we should be betting and everything, and it's a whole lot easier when you're using Flopzilla, so that you can see your ranges and your percentages. It's not so easy when you're actually at the table trying to figure out, okay, what percentages, where can I have my 2-to-1 bluff to value ratio on the flop, and about 50-50 on the turn, and so forth. But I think for the most part, we were doing things okay. What if we did larger sizing? So we'll say he calls. Oh, actually, we'll do. Does villain have Jack 7? He does. He has Jack 7 in his range. So that's okay. Let's see what lines us up. We bet larger. He calls. He checks 100%. We're betting a little bit higher, a little bit more often. But Jack 10 is still a check for us. Again, we would continue with the flush draw, with the open ender, gut shot, all to kind of balance top pair hands. We're still betting ace jack, usually betting ace jack. So, but our Jack 10 is a check. Let's say he goes to check. Now it's on us. Jack 10 still a check for us. We're betting top pair plus, which is kind of what I expected. I kind of assumed the kings. Maybe we can get some value with king queen, but GTO's arguing not to do that. So really kind of just throwing in the no made hands, which I had like 2s and 3s in there, which could have been in there for the smaller sizes, but it's really weak hands, things that missed. That's what we're targeting. Um, we're targeting these kind of hands that miss. So it does look like we played okay. Does he have Jack 7 as a range for that? Yes, he does. So I think it looks like an okay hand. If we wanted to go exploitative and take advantage of these numbers, yeah, I think we c-bet much higher on the flop, and then barrel the turn at a much higher frequency than what would be predicted. But against GTO, I think we've got a pretty good starting place. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow. And we'll have another hand up. That will be hand number 1 of our suited connectors.